Hey there guys, welcome back to ARTFX Studios, and you are watching a special video that I wanted to do today. I made a new topic on Reddit and I asked people what they struggle most with when making music. I got a lot of responses already and I definitely have some really cool subjects now to do some tutorials, but the first one I wanted to do is about how to overcome a writer's block. I know a lot of people have problems with writer's blocks and how to get your inspiration from all kinds of sources, but how do you do this? How do you handle it when you have a writer's block? Well, I had a lot of writer's blocks in the past and I know how I overcome them, or how I have overcome them, I guess. I have written down a little list of things that I think are really useful to talk about, and I want to have a little bit of a talk about that today. So let's get started. The first thing I think is really helpful when you are having a writer's block is try to find out for yourself if you're forcing yourself too much. Because if you're doing that, you're most likely not going to end up with what you want to end up with. Because when you force yourself, there's a small chance that you are actually going to get a good result. Most of the times when I forced myself to create something good, I was actually hitting that wall even harder than before. So I was actually making my writer's block even worse by trying to force myself to make music. So for me, what I think is really useful, if that's the case, if you're trying to force yourself, is to take a little break of music. It's that simple. Just try to take a break. And when you would come back at music then it's much more likely that you're going to be inspired way faster than before. Now, taking a break, you need to have something to do. I mean, you can't just take a break and do nothing, because that's not gonna work. You need to put your mind into a different sort of mindset. And what I like to do is to have more than one hobby. Making music for me is a hobby. I mean, it's turning into a job, but it's also a hobby for me, and I do this because I love to do it. I'm not doing this because I feel like it's a job. Especially not. I mean, I really feel that I love doing what I do. I mean, I like to make music, so that's why I do it. But I also have other things I love to do. For instance, I really love photography. I especially love photographing during the nighttime or during storms. I really love storms and shooting photographs of them. Or just shooting long exposures or doing urban exploring, stuff like that. And having that additional kind of thing that you love to do is for me a great way to get inspiration or to just take some time off, you know. Now meanwhile, I'm gonna show some photographs that I shot, so you might see some interesting shots that I did. But I just love to do photography because when I have a problem making music, I just go out, I take my camera and I go out and do something completely different from making music. And just having that different mindset, just doing something different, really helps me to create better music when I come back into the studio. So yeah, making music is not just about making music itself, it's getting a good balance between making music and doing other stuff. One other thing I like to do is to listen to a lot of music. When I have a writer's block, the best thing to get inspiration is to just listen to some music, or especially to listen to music that you haven't listened to before. Why is it that new music can inspire you? Well, when you listen to music, you can hear things that you weren't aware of, or that you might have not thought about at first. And you hear those things and you think, well, it might be interesting to do a little thing about that, or to do a track with that. And when you try out new things, there's a high chance that you're gonna get inspiration from that. And I can get inspiration from a lot of things, but one thing I always try to make sure is when I, for instance, try to make glitch hop, I'm not gonna listen to glitch hop to get inspiration. Because when I do that, the track that I'm gonna make after I get inspired by something is most likely gonna sound a lot like the thing that I was inspired by. And if I'm making glitch hop and I'm inspired by another glitch hop track, I make something and it's most likely gonna sound like the track I was inspired by, and then it just sounds like a copy, and I don't want that. I want to make something original. So I just try to listen to things that are completely different from what I'm trying to make and try to get inspiration out of that. And I mean, there's inspiration in every track. I mean, even the worst track out there has something in there of which you can get inspiration, believe me. Another thing that I really found to be really helpful is to make a different genre. I mean, making a different genre can really help. If you're stuck too long in creating, for instance, dubstep, and you put yourself out of your comfort zone and create glitch hop for an instance, then it's most likely that you're gonna get inspired by that. Or when you're always making electronic music, why don't you just try to make something instrumental for a change? Try to make something that uses mostly strings and a piano and try to make something good. Have no single drums in the tracks whatsoever. You might not release it as a track under your artist name, but it might help you to get inspired again, and that's what it's all about. It's not about creating something immediately, it's just getting that inspiration out of there, just finding that inspiration that you need to get over a writer's block. The fourth thing that I really think is really interesting is what you can do is you can collaborate with other producers. And when you collaborate with another producer, what you're gonna get is you're going to see techniques that he does and that they use, and those techniques might be really different from what you're used to. Now, that is something that you can take as inspiration. You see that they do things in a different way, and you can then take that information and turn that into inspiration by putting it into use. Try to do it yourself and try to find out why they preferred that way. Maybe you'll find out totally different things that are gonna speed up your workflow. Maybe you're gonna find a cool little inspiration for a track. It doesn't matter what you're gonna get out of it, but believe me, if you do it, you're gonna get a lot of that. The chance that you're gonna get something good out of it is really, really big. There's one more thing that I found really, really helpful when I was just starting out. And I was making drum and bass back then. And I was getting writer's blocks a lot. I mean, really a lot. And what I found to be really helpful, I always went to this club that we had. It was a really nice underground club. And they had really good drum and bass parties. I mean, I'm talking about one of the top-notch drum and bass artists that I've seen there. I mean, Current Value, Counter-Strike, Limewax, ID and Hidden, Raiden. I've seen a lot of these guys, and they performed there a lot. And I went there a lot, and every time I came back, I was filled with inspiration. I never had any writer's blocks when I came back. And I think that definitely was because just witnessing, experiencing that environment really helped me to get more inspiration. I would be at a party, and by being there, you really feel and see what makes people dance and what makes people move and what not. And you experience it yourself as the crowd. And I think that really inspires me, and just the whole experience itself is very inspirational. I mean, going to a show, especially in a club like that, because it was a really small underground club and you would be able to get really close to the DJs. So that way I found it to be really inspirational to just be able to look right onto the DJ's hands and to just see what they are doing. It's really great, and it's a great experience, and that's why I went there a lot. Unfortunately, the club has closed down, so it's not there right well, they opened again, but it's a new organization, and they do completely different parties now. It's not even funny. They do just mainstream house things, and I think they most likely also have big room parties there right now, and I would definitely not go to a club that holds big room parties. So, let's get something more production tips going. What I also found to be really, really helpful is what you can do. A lot of times when I had a writer's block, I would just go into my folder of unfinished projects and just dig through them and just find something interesting and try to finish it. I mean, just try to make something with it or get inspired by it. You can get inspiration from your own old projects. You haven't heard them for a long time, so you might get something out of it. I mean, it helped me countless of times to get over writer's block and actually finish a tune that I started maybe half a year ago. And I mean, if that leads you to finishing a track, then that's what you need to do. It's really simple. The next thing I found to be really helpful is to compete, you know, take part in some competitions. There's countless of competitions going on Beatport, for instance, which you can remix tracks from famous producers or popular producers, and you can sort of like, it comes back to the same thing of putting yourself out of your comfort zone again, because you are gonna be working with something that you haven't made yourself. And you can get inspired by that. I mean, one really good example for me was I found out about the Zomboy remix contest about 3 days before the tracks need to be handed in. And I was really inspired by the remix stems. And it was only 3 days, so normally for me 3 days is not enough to create a track, and it would most likely be not gonna be finished on time. But I was inspired by it so much that I actually finished the track within 1.5 days, which was unheard for me. I mean, I never ever finished a track that fast. And yet I was inspired so much by those remix stems that I was able to finish the track within 1.5 days. The only thing I needed to do was just to mix down and mastering. So I actually finished it on time. I handed it in, and I actually ended somewhere on the first page of the results, I guess. I was in the top 20. Pretty good, I guess. And yeah, that also brings me to the thing, set deadlines for yourself. Just say to yourself, I'm gonna finish the track by the end of this week. And you can do that. I mean, if you set a deadline for yourself, you are going to sort of like put some pressure on your productions. And I find that, especially when I look to the Zomboy project that I did, is that pressure actually led to more inspiration. And I was having a writer's block. That was the main reason I was searching for remix stems, because I thought, I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna try to do a remix. Maybe that is gonna help. And actually it did. So that's a great way. There are two more things that you can do. You can sample something, and you can record something, and you can do that. You can use that to get inspiration as well. Now, sampling something, you might think, well, yeah, but how is that going to get me more inspiration? Well, it's really simple. What I normally do when I have a writer's block is I go into my sample library and I just look for a loop, or, well, yeah, most of the times a loop, something that has multiple different things in the sample itself. And then I throw that into a sampler. I chop it up in really small parts, and those are going to be rearranged. And I'm just gonna keep on working with chopping up that sample until I get something cool out of it, and until I get something useful. Now, another great way that you could do is reverse the sample before you're going to chop it up, because you can get totally different sort of like structures out of that. You can get totally different sounds, and it's all about getting that inspiration. If there's a sound in there that sort of you hear it and you think, wow, that sounds cool, well, there you have your inspiration. It's really all about getting that out of it. There's inspiration to be found everywhere. It's just you who needs to find it. And it doesn't matter whatever you need to do to find that inspiration. Whatever works for you works, and embrace it. I mean, own it if you think that works the best for you. I find that sampling and recording definitely is a great way for me to get over a writer's block, because I can just go out and take my portable recorder and, for instance, just record some household objects smashing into each other and use those as percussion. If I create a cool drum loop out of those recorded sounds, then I have inspiration, then I am inspired by those sounds to create something good out of it. And when I then have made that drum loop, that loop will most likely lead to the next source of inspiration. And that's all that I'm trying to say, is just you need to find the inspiration to keep going. And that might be difficult, but when you think about these things, it actually starts to make a little bit more sense, I guess. Sometimes writing music is just not the thing that is the best to do, because you are focusing a lot on writing music and you might be focusing a little bit too much on the composition kind of things or the arrangement kind of things. And in those cases, it's most likely really important to just spend some more time doing sound design. Just focus a little bit more on the designing actual sounds itself. Try to make cool patches that sound interesting, not because you need the patch right now, but because you just want to get better at sound designing in general. And you can make interesting sounds using sound design and then maybe use them in a couple of tracks that you're gonna make a year from now. But it's all about getting inspired again, and if sound designing inspires you, and for me, I mean, sound design inspires me a lot. But if sound design inspires you, then you can use that and you can use it to get inspiration. I mean, it's a great tool, and without sound design, making good music is still possible, but it's a lot harder than you would think. And when you're able to create interesting sounds out of nothing, that will most of the time inspire you, because every time you're gonna end up with something cool, you might get inspired by that particular sound. And if that sound is gonna inspire you to make a total track around that sound, then that's a good thing, right? And then you've overcome your writer's block. So yeah, it's definitely a great thing to do. I mean, focus on sound design sometimes is really good. You could definitely also make sure that you split arranging and composition sessions from your sound design sessions. That might be a pretty interesting thing to do. Another thing you could do is just watch some tutorials. I mean, this might be one of the most easiest things to say, but especially for beginners, learning new techniques can really inspire you. If you learn something that you're not familiar with, you can get inspired by that particular technique. For instance, lately I knew nothing about granular synthesis. So I tried out some granular synthesis and I was absolutely inspired by what I ended up with. So that's now actually turning into a tune. And that's thanks to me trying to learn a new technique. So that technique, in the end, got me some inspiration. Go out of your comfort zone is also a really good tool. It's a really broad tool also, because going out of your comfort zone can be a lot of things, but going out of your comfort zone is probably the way to go. If you are getting stuck doing what you're doing, then that's most of the time because you're doing it too much. And if you go out of your comfort zone, and that can be anything, I mean, a lot of things from the things that I just talked about are actually going out of your comfort zone, making a different genre, listening to different music that you normally don't listen to, collaborate with a different artist if you are not familiar with doing collaborations, going to a live show if you are not familiar with going to live shows, setting deadlines for yourself if you're not doing that already, sampling if you're not sampling, recording if you're not recording. Those are all things that can fall under going out of your comfort zone. And I find, for me at least, when I go out of my comfort zone, I end up with creating the best things that I've created so far. If I look back at what music I've created during my time as a music producer, the best things that I created are all things I created after going out of my comfort zone. So that is definitely a really great way to get inspiration going and to get over a writer's block. Yeah, there's one more thing I might consider as a great tool to get over a writer's block is, for me at least, I can vocalize with my voice melodies that I think would sound interesting. And you can use your voice to get ideas into a recording, into an actual hearable form. So what I would do is I would connect my microphone and just try to come up with something rhythmically or melodic using your voice. I can create a melody with my voice and record that. And it doesn't matter how it's gonna sound. I mean, we're not talking about getting a good sound out of that recording. We're just trying to get a melody or an idea or a sketch for that melody, and we can then later extract notes or try to put a MIDI clip underneath it and make the notes with that particular instrument on that MIDI clip. But we can convert that into MIDI data, and if using your voice is going to end up in a idea for a track, then that is what you were trying to do. I mean, you're trying to get that inspiration, again, like I told you so many times already. You're trying to get that inspiration, and if using your voice can get you inspiration, then do it. I mean, it helped me a lot. Even though I am a beatboxer, I'm not beatboxing that much anymore, but I am. Beatboxing itself has helped me to come up with drum rhythms. I need to say that that's definitely a thing that helped me a lot. But it's even when you're not a beatboxer, you can come up with interesting ideas using your voice. And you could also do different things with that recording of your voice. You can take that recording and process it, stretch it out, reverse it, throw it through some distortion and some filters and other effects, and you might end up with some really insane sounds that are created out of your own voice, or maybe out of things that you've recorded yourself. I mean, when you make recordings, you can process those and turn them really into different things, turn them into unworldly sounds that people are gonna think of like, how did he make that? And I found out that just throwing some random samples or random recordings through a whole lot of processing can result in really interesting results. And if those results are really interesting, then those results are really, if they are interesting, they are filled with inspiration. It's just you who needs to take that out of it. Then, the last thing, of course, one more thing that sometimes you just need to do, and that's just giving it some time. If you're just struggling a lot and you followed all these things and you're still not getting over your writer's block, then either maybe writing music is not the thing for you to do. How harsh that may sound, I mean, not everybody is cut out to do the same thing. And you might be wanting to do music, and even though I strongly believe that even though you don't have a talent for something, you can learn everything you want to learn. But maybe you're just not cut out for it, or maybe you just need to give it some time. Maybe you think you have a writer's block, but you don't have a writer's block, you're just not capable of creating the things that you hear in professional recordings. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have a writer's block. That might actually mean that you're not on par with your skills, that you actually need a lot of more practice. And a lot of practice involves a lot of time. So sometimes giving it some time and just trying to create things, even though you might not finish a track, or you might finish tracks that don't sound as good as you want them to sound, don't just say like to yourself like, I can't make good music, or I have a writer's block, because you might not have one. You might just not be skilled enough yet, and you might just need a little bit of practice. And in that case, when you give it some time, you will definitely get better, believe me. So yeah, that's it. That's my little couple of tips about getting over writer's blocks. If you know some more things that help you to get over writer's block, then I would advise you to post them in a comment below. If that can help other people, then definitely do that. I mean, I think I've already narrowed it down pretty much. I already told you a lot of things, but maybe you know some more stuff. Just post it in a comment below, and maybe people will get some more useful information out of it. I hope this video was not too boring for you. It had nothing production-wise, it was only talking, but I mean, if this helps people, I mean, this is what people asked about. I mean, people asked me how to overcome a writer's block. Well, this is how I overcome my writer's blocks. and it has helped me during the past every single time again, and I'm now able to overcome my writer's blocks within one day. So yeah, that's it. If you want to hear more of my tutorials, if you want to hear more of my music, then go to www.artfx-studios.com, on which you can find a whole bunch of stuff about music production. You can find all my tutorials, you can find my music, you can find products with for music producers like sample packs, you can find presets on there. There's a community with a forum for music producers on which you can talk to other producers as well. Yeah, other than that, I just hope you like this video, and I'll see you back soon. Peace!